gentlemen,
Welcome.
Filipinos are grateful and have a deep affection
for the national interest.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Nation's Chronicler. Today's date is November 29, 2023, and the weather's fine. I am your anchor, Crisabel Mamawag. That said, today's first order of business is a quick recap of the events that led us to where we are now. A discussion of the Philippines' Third Republic. Here are reporters Ashley Dutera and Gil de Gadat.
June 9, 1945 was the first time the Philippine Congress convened after the war, and it was when Brigadier General Manuel Rojas was made Senate President. Months later, in April 1946, he became third and the last President of the Commonwealth. 4 months later, on July 4, 1946, came the inauguration of its Third Republic and the lowering of American flag by the American Ambassador Paul Macdonald, followed by the raising of the Philippine flag by President Manuel Rojas, marking our independence. And that said, as part of the agreement for our independence, he signed the Philippines Military Bases Agreement, the Bell Trade Act, and the Parity Amendment, all of which gave the U.S. various property and trade rights within the Philippines. Alongside, his term was marked with rehabilitation efforts such that he obtained a grant for the U.S. for a $25 million loan and received financial aid from the UNNRA. He died 2 years later and was succeeded by his Vice President, Elpidio Quirino. After inheriting the position in 1948, Rojas would also win a full term in the 1949 elections, leading to him serving until 1953. His vice president was Fernando Lopez. Their focus on the country's economic situation led to the creation of institutions like the President's Action Committee on Social Amelioration, abbreviated as PACSA, and the Agricultural Credit Cooperative Financing Administration, or ACFA for short, and to his request for the conduction of the Bell Mission Report. In 1953, Quirino was replaced by Ramon Magsaysay, the man of the masses, and his vice president, Carlos P. Garcia. Unlike his predecessor, his Hukbalahap amnesty program succeeded. His greatest accomplishments, however, were in the service to the people. He opened Malacanang to them, formed the Southeast Asia Treaty Organization, the Laurel-Longley Agreement, and the Philippines-Japan Reparations Agreement, founded the Social Security System, and created the Land Tenure Reform Act. Following Magsaysay's death in 1957, Carlos P. Garcia took up the presidency and would serve until 1961 with Diosdado Macapagal as his vice president. During this time, he would execute the Filipino First policy, the austerity program meant to deal with the rampant graft and corruption within the country, and the Bolen-Serrano Agreement regarding the lease of U.S. military bases within the country. In 1961, Diosdado Macapagal won the presidential race with Vice President Fernando Lopez. He strengthened the country's economy through establishing such things as the Control Program and the Agricultural Land Reform Law. Alongside, he strengthened international bonds by having the country join the Confederation of Mafilindo, and national ones through transferring Independence Day from July 4 to Aguinaldo's June 12, and designating the Filipino language for use in official documents. Furthermore, he also made the official Philippine claim to Sabah.
In 1965, Ferdinand Marcos was elected president and Fernando Lopez vice president. This led to the start of what is now referred to as the Marcos regime, though that would come only after his second term in 1969. For further elaboration, let us have Selena Puzon.
In Marcos' first term, he stabilized government finances by increasing the efficiency of taxation, promoted the IR8 breed, Miracle Rice, and similarly fast-growing breeds leading to greater production, and was involved in migrate of construction project. These fund from irrigation system, bridge and roads like the North Diversion Road, the improvement of the Philippine National Railway, to schoolhouses across the country. Additionally, there were also intensive operations against the organized crime, including ones against the Communist New People Army, the Manila Summit Conference in 1966. His second term after re-election in 1969 was tainted by raising inflation rates and the devaluation of floating peso. Furthermore, dirty politics and corruption were rampant. Social class divides were growing wider, and the 1935 Constitution wasn't proving to be so much help. In 1935, Constitution was an obvious product of American colonialism, lacking in preventions for local autonomy and against corruption, deeply imbalanced in favor of presidential position. On June 1, 1971, the Constitution Convention was inaugurated for drafting of a new constitution. Months later, however, on August 21, 1971, the Plaza Miranda bombing occurred. With that, let me introduce you our guest, Shane Cerda.
Good afternoon, the Nation's Chronicle, and nice to meet you, Ms. Buson.
Nice to meet you too. Anyway, tell me, what made Plaza Miranda bombing so significant for Marcos really?
That's a heavy topic and quite loaded. You see, it wasn't the most significant, but it was enough. Shortly after it happened, Marcos suspended the writ of habeas corpus on September 21 of that year. Some even go so far as to say it was foreshadowing. A year later, on September 21, 1972, he signed Proclamation 1081 and put the country under martial law, though the announcement came out 2 days later on September 23.
What of the Constitutional Convention then?
They finished the new constitution on November 29, 1972, though its ratification was postponed. Instead, it was ratified on January 17, 1973 by Marcos' newly organized Citizen Assembly, and it abolished the Congress and replaced it with a parliamentary government giving the president absolute legislative power.
Wouldn't have changed the whole dynamic within the government?
In the days of October 16 and 17 of 1976, after the Citizen Assemblies approved of the continuance of the martial law, they also went ahead and ratified Marcos' amendments regarding the creation of the interim Batasang Pambansa and various modifications for the presidential position's role and powers. Together, these amendments made the president into the prime minister and positioned the IBP as its rubber stamp.
Isn't just constitutional authoritarianism? Anyway, I didn't ask earlier, but what was life like during the martial law? Why would the Citizen Assembly want to keep it going?
Yes, it is. That said, Marcos did a lot to improve the country and its image during his term, building such establishments as the Philippine Heart Center, the National Kidney Institute, and the Lung Center of the Philippines. The government also seized control over a myriad of public utilities media and communication stations, and the like, limiting their movements. Additionally, the whole country had a curfew imposed upon it, and firearms were heavily regulated. So a lot of people's lives were quiet. Regardless, playing out alongside such things were the arrest and subsequent detainments of various oppositional figures, ranging from those within the political, media, and academic spheres.
Why do you think he went such length?
Perhaps we could say that it was all because, essentially speaking, Marcos was determined to topple the communist movement within the Philippines. The most prominent party of which was formed during his term in 1969, the Communist Party of the Philippines, led by Jose Maria Sison and its new People's Army under Commander Dante Bernabe Buscaino, to the point of dedicating such measures such as suspending the writ of habeas corpus in response to their movements, alleged or otherwise. However, they weren't the only ones he was wary of and moving against, as we all know. So, you could say the reason they gave only applied to explain how a lot of these opposing figures were arrested under accusations of sympathy for the rebel movement.
Yeah, okay. And despite all those strict measures, and conflicts still took place prettier often, right? Like ones between the Moro National Liberation Front of the government.
The Bangsamoro United Armed Forces led by Norma Subari to be more specific. Anyhow, the overall conflict led to losses for both sides, prompting Marcos to initiate a truce in 1975. Later in the year, on December 23, a peace agreement would be trade in Tripoli, Libya, with support from the Libyan government's colonel, Muammar Gaddafi. Such turbulence likely wasn't a rarity, so this probably fed into the rationale for the continuance vote in 1976.
But didn't Marcos end up lifting the martial law in 1981 anyway?
Yes, in January 17 to be exact. It preceded Pope John Paul II's visit, so it was perceived as being for publicity rather than something sincere. Still, Marcos responded to the perception. The first presidential election in 12 years was then held on June 16 with the following candidates. Of course, Marcos won with a massive victory of 88% over everyone else.
Wow, well, that's my cue to move on. Thank you for your time, Shane Serda.
Thank you as well, Ms. Puson, and have a great day, everyone.
On to our next segment, Ms. Mamawag.